pretending to be reading. Michael had admitted to his mother over breakfast that morning it had been love at first sight. "But you've known Susan for years," remarked his mother. "No, I haven't, Mom," he replied. "I met her for the first time yesterday." Both sets of parents were delighted, but not surprised, when they became engaged a year later. After all, they'd hardly spent a day apart since Susan's graduation party. Both had landed jobs within days of leaving college, Michael as a trainee with the Hartford Life Insurance Company and Susan as a history teacher at Jefferson High, so they decided to get married during the summer vacation. What they hadn't planned was that Susan would become pregnant while they were on their honeymoon. Michael couldn't hide his delight at the thought of being a father, and when Dr. Greenwood told them in the 6th month that it was going to be twins, he was doubly delighted. "Well, at least that will solve one problem," was his first reaction. "Namely?" asked Susan. "One can be a Republican, the other a Democrat." "Not if I have anything to do with it," said Susan, rubbing her stomach. Susan continued teaching until her 8th month, which happily coincided with the Easter vacation. She arrived at the hospital on the 28th day of the 9th month carrying a small suitcase. Michael left work early and joined her a few minutes later, with the news that he had been promoted to account executive. "What does that mean?" asked Susan. "It's a fancy title for an insurance salesman," Michael told her, "but it does include a small pay raise, which can only help now we're going to have 2 more mouths to feed." Once Susan was settled in her room, Dr. Greenwood suggested to Michael that he wait outside during the delivery, as with twins there might be complications. Michael paced up and down the long corridor. Whenever he reached the portrait of Josiah Preston, hanging on the far wall, he turned and retraced his steps. On the first few of these route marches, Michael didn't stop to read the long biography printed below the portrait of the hospital's founder. By the time the doctor emerged through the double doors, Michael knew the man's entire life history by heart. The green-clad figure walked slowly towards him before removing his mask. Michael tried to fathom the expression on his face. In his profession, it was an advantage to be able to decipher expressions and second-guess thoughts, because when it came to selling life insurance, you needed to anticipate any anxieties a potential client might have. However, when it came to this life insurance policy, the doctor gave nothing away. When they came face to face, he smiled and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Cartwright, you have 2 healthy sons." Susan had delivered 2 boys, Nathaniel at 4:37 and Peter at 4:43 that afternoon. For the next hour, the parents took turns cuddling them, until Dr. Greenwood suggested that perhaps mother and babies should be allowed to rest. "Having to feed 2 children will prove exhausting enough. I shall put them both in the special care nursery overnight," he added. "Nothing to worry about, because it's something we always do with twins." Michael accompanied his 2 sons to the nursery, where once again he was asked to wait in the corridor. The proud father pressed his nose up against the pane of glass that divided the corridor from the row of cribs, gazing at the boys as they lay sleeping, wanting to tell everyone who passed, "They're both mine." He smiled at the nurse who was standing by their side, keeping a watchful eye over the latest arrivals. She was placing name tags around their tiny wrists. Michael couldn't remember how long he remained there before eventually returning to his wife's bedside. When he opened the door, he was pleased to find that Susan was fast asleep. He kissed her gently on the forehead. "I'll see you in the morning, my darling, just before I go to work," he said, ignoring the fact that she couldn't hear a word. Michael left her, walked down the corridor, and stepped into the elevator to find Dr. Greenwood had exchanged his green scrubs for a sports jacket and gray flannels. "I wish they were all that easy," he told the proud father as the elevator stopped on the ground floor. "Still, I'll drop by this evening, Mr. Cartwright. Check on your wife and see how the twins are doing. Not that I anticipate any problems." "Thank you, Doctor," said Michael. "Thank you." Dr. Greenwood smiled and would have left the hospital and driven home had he not spotted an elegant lady coming through the swing doors. He walked quickly across